Information making me question our relation.
Folks, welcome to race number 4, if I got it right. Yep, race number 4 of the Bwoah Racing League Season 7. I'm your host, as always, Zetaxter behind the mic, ahead of our 4th race of the season in the Bwoah Racing League, hosted by RoadRunnerRacing Esports. It is a sim racing league based on the game F1 23. We've been hosting races and seasons as part of our Bwoah Racing League since 2020. We're into our 7th edition now, and of course, if you want to jump into the game itself, compete wheel to wheel with similar competitors in the game itself, perhaps even at your competitive level, you just have to jump into our Discord. But today we're heading to the Paul Ricard circuit into 18 minutes of short qualifying ahead of a 50% race distance race, ahead of Formula 1 as they head into the Qatar GP. So if you're tuning in at the right time, considering the race is in about an hour and a half or so, which should take us just as much time to wrap all this up. But now, 18 minutes to short qualifying. Great to see more than 10 drivers out on track. Of course, not too many, just a mere one more, but we'll take it. We'll take even 9 more of y'all if you'd want to jump into one of the cars. As we can see, Spicy Killer 22, who I'm gonna go ahead and assume is another rookie this season, much like Leroy Jenkins, much like Rage Nail, who's another one of our drivers who is a rookie in the Bwoah Racing League. So it's great to see out of the 11 drivers out here today around the French track, we've got about 3 rookies competing, and of course about 8 stalwarts, you could say, of the Bwoah Racing League. So for those of you tuning in, make sure you hit that like, hit that subscribe if you haven't already. We're still working on building up our social team once again. It had its glory days back in Season 4. We're trying to bring it back. Season 3 and Season 4 was pretty glorious, I'd say, if you tune into our Instagram specifically. But nevertheless, we've still got an active graphic designer in UK who is also happens to be the Bwoah Racing League champion of season 1 or 2. I keep forgetting, but he is a champion on track in the Bwoah Racing League. But out here today, of course, is all about the French GP of the Bwoah Racing League Season 7. 11 competitors, 4 of them out on their outlaps. So far in this season, we've had Big Man Joe, the man in the Alfa Romeo currently in the pits, win 2 out of the 3 races so far. And we've had Envy break his winning streak just last race. So last race was amazing to witness. Kept me on the edge of my seat as much as it could, and of course a bit lonely in the Consworks itself. Usually I have my co-commentator Dalvin with me, evidently so this season he's not been able to commit as such. So for now it's just me. If you're someone who's looking to clearly jump on behind the mic for a sim racing league, make sure you head into our Discord, as is the same case if you want to drive in our sim racing league. We've got over 15 minutes left to short qualifying. As you can see, I think most of the drivers are coming out on track already. Let's get the telemetry as well as our sector times up. Of course, the track map's the only thing left to pop out. Usually I do this as Mr. Dalvin himself continues to explain about the track. But for now, let's stay on board Spicy Killer. Purple Sector 1, as you'd expect from the rookie who'd come out first out of the pits. Early bird gets the worm, but it's not the case in a qualifying session, of course. You got to be the fastest bird to get this worm of pole position, the coveted position of pole ahead of the race. And right now we got 2 drivers on fast laps, no more than 2, about 4 drivers, and some of them venturing off track, staying well and clear out of their competitors' way. Of course, it's our 2-time race winner in Season 7, Big Man Joe. And we got Sector 3 yellow, and that is a car off track, seemingly. Hopefully you can get back on, but that's purely speculation based on what I saw on the track map. But let's see the first lap time coming out of one of the drivers, out of the 11 drivers. It's Spicy Killer 22. He's a rookie this season, one of the rookies this season, as he heads into Sector 3. Particularly about this map itself. No, it's not an FPS, folks. It's a sim race. It is an F1 game race. And of course, as I say that, my mind is blanking, but the first lap time on the board should be a stellar 1 minute 32.051 coming from Spicy Killer. Of course, on the board, and as I see that, as Mr. Wex retired from the session, I didn't see yellows light up on the track, but I was trying to figure out the difference between a map and a track in my head. Regardless, right now, seemingly, is Vex out of this session. Unfortunate for him, he's been having issues of his own with regard to the internet, the game itself. So unfortunate to see that he will be starting from the back of the pack. So he's got a challenge to take from the last first challenge, essentially, as the lap times come through. We've got 4/10s faster than Freeze is Envy, 1 minute 30.031. First lap times coming through in the 1 minute 30s range. Let's not forget early times into this shock qualifying, so predictions are welcome. Who do you think will be locking out the front row, if anything, or anyone it might be? Drop in the chat. Of course, let's not forget Envy, currently fastest. He did take pole position, if my memory serves me right, in the last race, and he'll be looking to do something similar. There is, however, quite the story weaved by the man in the Mercedes AMG Petronas car today, who is Freeze. We've seen him around this track perform considerably well time and time again. Not a one-off, not a two-off either. He's been known to do well around Paul Ricard. Of course, he's been handed the short end of the stick a lot of times. Collisions with teammates without his own mistake. At safety car restart, I remember possibly season 5 of the Bwoah Racing League. But yeah, as he heads into the pits, he's a driver to watch out for around Paul Ricard. He's known to have do incredibly well here, as I mentioned before. And let's not forget, if you have been watching Bwoah Racing League for a couple of seasons now, you'll remember how he pulled off an incredible stint on the mediums way back in season, I'm going to go out on a finger here and say season 4. And that is Freeze, and I think he enjoys this track, is what I'd say. Could be wrong, regardless. Gouts Masterclass incoming, says UK in the chat. For of you all watching, make sure you drop your predictions in the chat. UK thinks Gouts is going to pull off a Masterclass. This is a driver who finds comfort in the midfield. He probably will not resonate with that, or possibly will. He enjoys staying clear of his competitors at the race start to ensure he doesn't get piled up with the wreckage that could ensue. Very cautious, as you'd imagine. But this season, of course, he's trying something new. He's switched off the racing line. So every new season, he tries picking off one thing or the other, one aid or the other, and turning it off to ensure he becomes a better sim racing driver. So it's great to see him experimenting in that sense. Of course, we got rookies in the thickness of the midfield. Leroy Jenkins going up into being the 5th fastest driver on track. I saw a car go completely wide in the backdrop. I hope there was no damage. I don't think he was too wide, just how the track curved, of course. But yeah, the thickness of the midfield seemingly is Leroy Jenkins, Spicy Killer, and Horning. Let's not forget, 4 drivers still yet to set a lap time. 1 might not at all, considering he has been retired from the session and not just a mere disconnection. But yeah, very competent drivers, and an unknown factor of sorts in today's race is Rage Nail. So it's the first time he's going to be out on track for the Bwoah Racing League. I've not seen or gotten to see any kind of lap times from him. I try to keep myself away from the classification lap times they put in ahead of joining in the Bwoah Racing League, in an attempt to have it raw in qualifying itself, in our shock qualifying itself. Gives me all the more reason to jump out of my chair. Regardless, fastest driver out there on track with 10 minutes left shock qualifying is Envy in the AlphaTauri, 1 minute 30.031. That first lap time he set still remains unbeaten. He's on an out lap. Freeze comes close second. He's provisional P2. Gouts as well, 3rd fastest out on track. Spicy Killer, Leroy Jenkins, Horning, and Big Man Joe. Only 7 drivers out of the 11 drivers have set a lap time, and I don't think any of them have set their best ones yet. So far, Envy's lap time, however, promises pole in some sense. Provisional pole for now. There are on outlaps, however, the 2 front runners for now in this qualifying session. Let's not forget, some of them like to lay back in the early parts of qualifying, come out last couple of minutes, try and pull off a stellar lap. We've seen that on more than one occasion. I know Levi Tiger Pants is an advocate of it. On multiple occasions we've seen him top the timesheets at the very last run, and really been that wow factor in the last couple of seasons, last season and this season for that matter. He's been caught off guard with disconnections, he's been caught off guard with issues with the game, of course, which is unfortunate for him. He is playing all the way from Australia, so while most of the grid is based out of Asia and Europe, so credit to him there for showing up time and time again. Clearly, he was in the Alfa Romeo last season alongside Big Man Joe. That was an interesting team dynamic, and we got to see some stellar results both in qualifying as well as races. It was a treat to watch the two perform as they did. But for now, they're competitors, and we got to see them out on track compete as well, go wheel to wheel on more than one occasion over the last 3 races. I'm curious to see how this race turns out to be. But with 8 minutes left to short qualifying to end, we've got Envy, Sector 2, 700ths of a second, make that 600ths possibly up on his lap time. So he's improving, as you'd imagine. Let's jump on to Freeze. And he is starting a fast lap now. Everybody on the soft tires, as you'd imagine. And yeah, I'm surprised how Sickneg's not set a lap time yet. He's taking rather a bit too slowly. He just came out and heads back into the pits, so possibly getting to grips with the track itself. It's been a while for some of these drivers since they actually got back on track in this game specifically. Some of them even compete in endurance sim racing, which is a whole different ball game, folks. I couldn't cast it even if I wanted to. I have attempted. I had the privilege to do it briefly, but regardless of that, it's still a tricky esport to get behind. Of course, to you all watching, make sure you drop in the chat any kind of predictions you might have ahead of this qualifying coming to an end. We've got 11 drivers out on track today, one more than we usually do this season, and we are hoping to have a full racing grid by the end of this season. And I think it's doable. I've just got to make some tweaks on how we push the league. It's at 400ths of a second up on Sector 3 for Freeze, and as I say that, his competitor, his closest competitor, he has invalidated his lap time, Freeze, but Envy goes even quicker, 1 minute 29.861 the lap time to beat it out of nowhere. That wow factor, that wild card as I called it earlier, Levi Tiger Pants, 1 minute 29.716, purple sectors throughout the track map, a whole 1/10 of a second quicker than Envy's lap time. Just over 6 minutes left to short qualifying, and things are just getting started. Five and a half minutes left to show qualifying. Nothing's changed as the drivers headed into the pits. Some of them on their outlaps as well. Seemingly, Gauss is the only one, actually one of 3 drivers on fast laps, but I don't think it'll be their best ones yet. Of course, Gauss, Horning, Big Man Joe, all 3 drivers pretty competent. We've seen them on the podium before. Some of them even taking the win as well on Big Man Joe's front. Let's not forget, today it's a clean slate for the day at the very least. And is that drops of rain I'm seeing? Or am I not seeing that right? If it is possibly drops of rain, that sends this qualifying session, that makes this qualifying session a tad bit interesting, considering the drivers who've pretty much failed to set a lap time, they're not going to be able to set quicker lap times than their peers out on track. And right now, you can see someone like Big Man Joe rushing in some sense to the line, or perhaps not. He slows down, but clearly there are drops of rain. I see it in sector 2 and into the entrance to sector 2 and in the pit lane. So clearly there is rain coming. We're going to see a bunch of these drivers trying to attempt to set a lap time on the intermediates, but they're not going to go quicker than the times they set on the softs. That's not going to happen, which means, is this our provisional grid for the French GP of the Bwoah Racing League Season 7? It just might be. It just might be. What a twist to the race itself. It'll be. I wonder how some of these drivers must be feeling, especially someone like Sicknick, who's come out on 2 occasions in this qualifying session so far, and not set a lap time. Not set a lap time at all. He's down in P9. He'll be starting in the back of the pack if that's the case, but he is still pushing, so he's still on the softs as well. So if he's gained enough time on this lap to ensure he's in the top 3 at the very least, he'll have a smile on his face. He's coming through sector 3. I wonder if how he's doing up against another competitor up in front. 1 minute 29.716 from Levi Tiger Pants is the lap time to beat. Envy comes out on an outlap on the softs, a bit too late perhaps, as the rain gets a bit more severe, very slightly, but on the main straight now. Sicknick, what kind of lap time can he set? How quicker can he go across the line? He goes only 7th fastest, goes quicker than Leroy Jenkins and Horning, and that is not a pretty sight for Sicknick to settle behind someone like Spicy Killer, who's coming out on track for the very first time in this season. Oh, the rear kicking out, so clearly the rain is coming down a bit, very slightly. Bahada. Invalidated his lap time, Envy, on his fast lap, or out lap in fact, that is assumed, so he is stuck there. Freeze, 3rd fastest, still on soft, so he's going to try and attempt to do something on those tires, but has invalidated his lap as well. We got a couple of these drivers sitting in the pits, patiently waiting to see how weather conditions unravel, but we're down to the last couple of minutes. We got our fastest driver out on track, coming out for an out lap. And we got some of these drivers still on the softs despite the rain and trying to set a lap time. How quicker can they go? Can they really ensure they're quicker on this time around with that bit of rain coming down? Let's stay on board Envy, who still validated his lap time, so we'll be heading into the pits. The only driver to come out on the intermediates, trying to get to grips with the track, perhaps, considering he is now currently provisional pole and probably is gonna run away with it. His lap time on the softs was as stellar and couldn't have come at a better time, considering he is the fastest out on track and considering the weather conditions themselves. Sector 3 lighting up yellow. That could be a car having a bit of a moment there. Well, let's stay with Levi Tiger Pants. Let's see how quicker, or what kind of lap time he does on the intermediates, because he's clearly not going to be going quicker. Last minute in short qualifying, and I think that is a day being called unfortunate for someone like Rajnail, who's out here on track for the very first time. Hasn't been on track for the Bwoah Racing League and will not set a lap time yet this season. So he's stuck, starting from P11, well behind Mr. Wex, which is peculiar to see. I wonder how that will play out in the race itself, but that is Levi Tiger Pants on the intermediates. Let's jump back to Spicy Killer, who's another driver out on track, but has invalidated his lap time, still on the softs. So he might just go for another try at the very least, another attempt on beating his own lap time. Highly unlikely with the conditions. But if you don't try, are you even a competitor? Some would say. Coming along sector 3, and I'm just tuning in to the driver chat, trying to figure out what is happening with the drivers. I don't see any kind of chatter. Looks like everybody's at the pit wall in our Discord server and trying to figure out if it's wise to continue. Oh, a bit of a moment there for Spicy Killer as I was tuning into chat, but that is the end of the qualifying session, as you'd imagine, and as expected, folks. Like I mentioned, with the rain coming down as it did at the tail end of qualifying, it's the drivers who came out at the right moment and set the lap time, the right lap time, in fact. And one of them who quickly picked off Envy's stellar time of 1 minute 29.861, was this man on your screens, Levi Tiger Pants. 1 minute 29.716 after an unfortunate run in the last race, he finds himself on pole position ahead of race number 4 at the French GP of the Bwoah Racing League. And I think that'll give him a good reason to be happy going into this race at the very least. Hopefully he doesn't have any kind of connection issues. Hopefully the game is kind to him on this occasion. And of course, it's anyone's guess who's gonna be leading into turn 1. There you have the order itself. Out of the French GP of the Bwoah Racing League Season 7 is Levi Tiger Pants on pole position, Envy on the front row, Freeze and Gauss Locker the second row. It's going to be interesting to see a Mercedes and a Ferrari go wheel to wheel into turn 1. I'm looking forward to that. Big man Bwoah, a 2-time race winner in this season alone, qualifies P5, and that is Spicy Killer in P6, the rookie, the only rookie to put himself in the top 6 in this 11-car grid. Of course, it is all sunshine and daisies by the looks of it for the race itself around Paul Ricard, a 50% race distance race, which means we should wrap up on time ahead of the F1 Qatar GP, in time for the drivers to quickly jump on and tune in for the race start of the Qatar GP. Of course, speaking of race starts always intrigue me. In fact, I actually enjoy the formation lap as one of the most enjoyable moments in a sim race itself, if I frame that right. But formation laps have unfortunately caused a lot of issues, so we've turned it off. So we jump straight into the race start itself. This is when I usually bring up tires. This is when I usually talk about how which driver is being audacious enough to go for the reverse strategy and whatnot. But last time out I tried that. The race director decided to, well, be the race director. So we're not going to be doing that, and I have no interest in losing out on watching the race start itself. So we're going to tune in. We see Mr. Wex joining in. Hopefully he doesn't have issues either. We got 3 rookies out on track, some of whom haven't even set a lap time in qualifying. We got Levi Tiger Pants on pole position ahead of Envy and Freeze as well. So an interesting top 3, an interesting top 5, even putting Guards qualifying ahead of Big Man Joe in this unusual qualifying session we had. The drivers clearly didn't see the rain coming in any sense, and they lost out, especially the drivers who thought they could set a lap time at the tail end of the qualifying session. Now we got Sicknick at the back of the pack, we got Mr. Wex at the back of the pack, we got someone like Rage Nail, who we've never seen compete in the Bwoah Racing League before, at the back of the pack. And they're in an attempt to make that last to first challenge. In the midfield, we got some pretty competent competitors in the likes of Gods, Big Man Joe, Spicy Killer, who's also a rookie, put himself in the mix, Leroy Jenkins horning as well. And heading into the front of the pack, we've got 3 heavyweights in the likes of Freeze, Envy, and Levi, who's on pole. So it's going to be an interesting race, to say the least. 50% race distance around Paul Ricard. It's going to be stellar, and hopefully the players are ready to go. And yes, we've got 11 drivers out on track on their grid boxes. 5 lights are out, and away we go. And at the race start, it looks like a bit of wheel spin for the front 2. Regardless, caught snoozing is clearly Gauss, and Big Man Joe could line up a move at the back of the pack. It could turn into a frenzy, but up in front, I see a battle coming through, and contact as well between Big Man Joe and Gauss. The Alfa Romeo and Ferrari cars, both in different shades of red, tumble down the order, and I see a Red Bull get in the mix of it. And just like that, Spicy Killer says thank you very much. The rookie makes his way up in a P4. Would you look at that? But a humongous gap to close in on as Sector 1 turns yellow. The front of the pack, of course, Levi Tiger Pants gets that stellar start he was hoping for so many races this season. And he's going to hold on to it. He's going to make Envy fight for it. Envy not too far behind, just 4 tenths between himself and the race lead in sights as he follows that Williams car through Sector 2. He's got Freeze chopping down the track itself closing in on him. Of course, behind the Spicy Killer, threatened for position. Rajnail out of nowhere. He was down in P11 at the start, wasn't he? But down the inside he goes, wheel to wheel through Sector 3, into Sector 3 in fact, and up into P4 in the Alpine. What a way to start your innings in the Bwoah Racing League. What a way to start a race, especially one around Paul Ricard. He's up in a P4 all the way from P11 and he is just charging. He's on a charge like no other, and I just wonder what kind of tires everybody's got on. Evidently so mediums on for the top 6 so far. We got Big Man Joe on the hards. Might have just gone against his strategy, that little incident at the start itself. Sicknig, unfortunately, having not set a lap time, a competent enough lap time, he finds himself going into the pits. I assume he was the Red Bull who was involved in an incident of his own. So into the pits goes Sicknig, Gouts Horning, and Mr. Wex, evidently retiring from the session. Unfortunate to see that unravel the way it is. But yeah, that is the end of the race for Wex in the Aston Martin. He calls it a day, and now we've got 10 drivers out on track. Of course, up ahead, shortest gap between 2 drivers, 5 tenths between Levi Tiger Pants and Envy, and closing in, let's not forget, closing in quick. It was almost a second's gap between these two, and now they find themselves being a mere half a second between them. Of course, in the midfield as well, things will get interesting. Sector 1 lining up yellow briefly for a car that possibly went off track for just a bit of a moment. Envy seeming like he's in stellar racing form as he closes in on Levi Tiger Pants. I imagine Levi is taking it a bit more laid back, ensuring he'll have enough ERS in the tank to ensure he can take a battle, defend off Envy as much as he can. Of course, early times, just lap number 2. We barely getting to lap number 2 of the French GP of the Bwoah Racing League Season 7. And we might just see a battle not only for P1 but for P3 as well. Rajnail is closing in quick. 1 minute 33.549 was the fastest lap out there. It is 1 minute 33.164. Rajnail is charging through, and with DRS enabled, I reckon he's going to come on charging. But who's charging in the midfield? It's Big Man Joe on the hards. Passes Leroy Jenkins. He's going to try and redeem himself around Paul Ricard, and he picked off 1. He's got another 5 to go if he's got his eyes on that race lead. Up ahead, however, Rajnail closing in on possibly a snoozing freeze. Let's quickly have a look at the ERS. Closing in, can he see his gearbox in his sights? Levels with the Mercedes AMG Petronas employee in real life, driver in the Bwoah Racing League, and through he goes. Rajnail up in a P3, up into the podium positions for the first time in the Bwoah Racing League. And he's not gonna stop there, is he? He is on a charge like no other, purely superior on the front of pace. He is on a charge, and the battle for the lead is on. It's AlphaTauri versus Williams, wheel to wheel, almost banging tires there as they enter Sector 3. It's Levi Tiger Pants and Envy, and Levi clearly equipped well enough to fend off Envy to ensure he holds on to the race lead. But Envy is going to be tactical about this, and on the main straight, he's going to attempt once again. A mere 3 tenths between our front runners, and I wonder if he's going to be as audacious as you think. The rear kicks out, and that's going to cost him 2 tenths, if anything. And despite DRS, he might just have to hold back or not. Slipstream to his aid. No DRS in sights by the looks of it, and he's going to stay tucked behind of the Williams up in front. Back on to this battle for P3. Freeze is not too far behind. He's not falling back too much. He can actually close in on the Alpine driver of Rajnail, and he is staying within half a second. So these two are going to try and pull themselves towards that battle happening for the race lead itself between that Williams and AlphaTauri. So we're going to have an interesting 4-way battle if things pan out right. And boy oh boy, I hope we get it. Oh, here he comes for a second attempt. Envy makes this pass stick this time around, and that is through Sector 2, the incredible straight. Might have just been caught snoozing at the exit, perhaps not. Levi Tiger Pants a mere 10th away from that AlphaTauri, still on top of his gearbox. Envy's rearview mirror is completely blue, a Williams blue, and Levi Tigerpan stays within a mere 800ths of a second apart from the AlphaTauri driver, and through the inside, a move similar attempted by Envy last time out, this time out fulfilled by Levi Tigerpants, back onto the race lead. And what stellar racing we are seeing around Paul Ricard today, folks. And we're gonna see much more of it. We're merely on lap number 4, and Envy not too far behind on the main straight. He's gonna challenge once more. He's gonna challenge the Williams driver again, I'd reckon, and he's gonna have everything to his aid. Slipstream in sight, and weaves to the left hand side of the track, level pegging into turn 1, weaves to the left hand of the track aggressively. Levi Tigerpants attempting to make a move and possibly put on more pressure onto that AlphaTauri driver of Envy. Stays within a mere 10th of a second to the AlphaTauri driver, and they're gonna, stellar racing coming through from these front runners. Bit of a mishap for the AlphaTauri driver, somehow keeps it on track, parks it brilliantly on the center of the track, ensuring Levi Tigerpants makes a fumble and loses a bit of time. Weaves to the left hand side of the track, tucks behind for slipstream. However, Levi Tigerpants closing in. It's the same move Envy pulled off on Levi, and it's Levi on Envy this time around into sector 2, and Envy has to concede, and he will go straight back to P2 where he was a mere couple laps ago. He's coming back for it. He's coming back around the outside. He peeks, fending him off his Levi Tigerpants, making sure he has no gap to make the pass. AlphaTauri driver is stuck behind a Williams driver. Would you look at that? Who would have thought 5 laps into the French GP of the Bwoah Racing League Season 7 we'd see stunning battles for the race lead itself, and it looks like Envy might have just taken off the foot from the throttle to just ease himself through sector 3 and give himself some space before attempting to make that move once again on Levi. So clearly both level pegging on ERS as well. So they haven't exhausted too much of their resources. Closing in once again into turn 1. Patiently lifts off and stays behind Williams as Envy. He's going to continue to hold the position. He's going to force an error from Levi. I think that's clearly what he's trying to pull off right now. And into sector 2, we've seen a move come out of this battle on more than one occasion last time out, and we're gonna see it perhaps once again. Seemingly this time a bigger gap between the two. Levi Tigerpants has opened up quite the gap, almost a second's gap to Envy, and look who's there behind. Rajnail, our rookie, in his first race of the Bwoah Racing League. He is closing in, and he's closing in quick. Oh, a slide for Envy over the curbs. It's going to cost him quite a bit of time, not only to Levi, but it's going to invite Rajnail into that battle. A 3-way fight for the lead, perhaps, between these 3 drivers, each on a different shade of blue and white. And the Alpine driver patiently waiting for the front runners to fumble, possibly make a mistake, be forced to an error. Insights perhaps Spicy Killer, however, in the midfield. 3-second time penalty for him after multiple warnings. Rookie mistakes perhaps down in P7. He has lost quite a bit of positions, but hopefully he can come back. The race is only begun. We've got 21 laps of racing left. Got Levi Tigerpants leading this race ahead of Envy and Rajnail, all within a second of each other. I wonder if this will invite freeze momentarily heading into the next couple of laps, when you can see Envy charging through the main straight, closing in on the gearbox. So Levi Tigerpants sends it wide, almost seemingly the rear kicking out as much as it did. Rajnail not too far behind. He's going to capitalize on the next fumble of Envy, surely enough, as you'd imagine. Sector 2 is the part of the track you want to watch out for to see if Rajnail can pull off a move. You can see Envy still fumbling, struggling for grip seemingly through certain parts of the track as the rear kicks out, and this time around it is opportunity for Rajnail, closing in, weaves to the left hand side of the track, level pegging with our former champion of the Bwoah Racing League through the inside. Well done Rajnail in his rookie race, in his rookie season. Might just have costed him a position, perhaps not. Envy still within a 10th. Envy loses that position to Rajnail, but Rajnail still in sights, and Envy's not going to let him off easy. There's a seconds gap between these two and Levi Tigerpants. Rajnail's on a charge and seemingly has better grip through that corner, through that right hander. It seemed like he'd parked that car, he'd taken the perfect race line through that part of the track. I haven't seen a car move the way it did from Envy's POV, the way Reginald moved his Alpine through that part of the track. So he's on a charge for the lead, as you'd imagine. He was trying to last to first, and I think he's almost done it. This reminds me of Mr. RB Ferrello back a couple of seasons. Season number 5 specifically. Oh, how we miss his last to first challenges. As much as he wanted to get the race lead, the rat kicks out of Envy. Oh, another driver who wanted the race lead and perhaps won't be getting it anytime soon unless a series of factors play out in front of him. Is Rez kicking out might not have been too comfortable with the setup he's picked. Who knows? Over a second's gap to him and Reginald, and he's gonna have to stay in P3 for now. And Reginald closing in on his next competitor in sights, Levi Tiger Pants, who's holding the race lead. What happened to Mr. Vex, you ask? Well, Mr. Vex has disconnected. He has retired from the session. And it just could be an issue with the game itself. But for now, on lap number 8, the action, however, is on the front of the pack. In the very front between Reginald and Levi Tiger Pants. Reginald doing good on his pace, clearly. As he closes in almost a half a second to Levi Tiger Pants. Incredible pace. We've not seen this before. Or it's been a while since we saw this kind of pace from a driver in the Bwoah Racing League. So it's always nice to find new drivers jump in and be spectacularly good on track. As he's clearly shown at the racetrack, making that pass all the way from P11 up into P4. And thereafter making that pass on a freeze, on an Envy. And now he has his sights at least on Levi Tiger Pants. And Levi Tiger Pants, he's gonna get his elbows out. He's gonna ensure it doesn't come easy for this rookie. Reginald versus Levi Tiger Pants. Perhaps not on this lap, but in the laps to come, surely enough. And Envy seemingly is not too far behind, just a second off of Reginald. So hopefully he'll be coming through as well. And I might have called it too soon, because Reginald, all of a sudden, within 3/10, about 3/10 to Levi Tiger Pants, and at the back of the pack we see the other rookie in Spicy Killer heading into the pits for a pit stop. Leroy Jenkins gets handed a 3-second time penalty after multiple warnings, and soon enough we will have a guest commentator in our comms box soon enough, just waiting patiently for this battle between Reginald and Levi Tiger Pants to unravel. We're on lap number 9, folks, and you see it. Dalvin tuning in as well, and we'll have him behind the mic very soon. I just want to see on the main straight Reginald versus Levi Tiger Pants. Are we going to see a move? Perhaps not. Reginald is going to stay behind or possibly just beat down the inside of Levi as he did. A mere 10th between the two, and they're going to stay the same in the same spots for another lap or so. Perhaps in sector 2 we're going to see some sort of action coming off from the Alpine driver and the Williams driver in the Bwoah Racing League. And lap number 10, folks, we got Levi Tiger Pants leading this race. Envy down into P3 after losing that position to Reginald, who's up in a P2 all the way from P11. Freeze gets handed a 3-second time penalty, and on sector 2 we see him make a move. Reginald closing in quick. He has no aid of ERS, so he's gonna stay behind the Williams driver, but closing in as quick as he can, tucks into the slipstream, as you'd imagine, of Levi Tiger Pants, and he is going to stay well behind Williams, pulling away. Fantastic Levi Tiger Pants in the race lead. And I think with that, give me a moment as I pull in my co-commentator into the comms box. Alright, folks, we are back, and Dalvin, you can jump into the comms box if anything, and we're good to go. It'd be nice to have a familiar voice once again. I think he's jumped in. Davin.
Right on cue, Satak. Welcome. You should tell me to welcome,
Yeah.
But yeah, looks nice out on track, right on time here. Rage Neil mounting an attack on Levi Tiger Pants for the lead. Satak, what's been happening so far?
Yeah, interesting development. Some of them even rookies, even Rajnel for that matter. A rookie, it's his first time out around Bwoah Racing League, around Paul Ricard in the Bwoah Racing League, and he's made, this last to first challenge seem a bit too easy. From P11 to P4 at race start, he reminds me of Abi Ferrello.
Oh, exactly, a name that we definitely missed for quite a while here. I'm pretty sure he's somewhere out there doing some stuff, but yeah, last to first, not exactly the way you usually see most of these drivers do, but good to see a familiar, a new face replacing someone familiar in that fashion. 6/10 the gap though on the second Mistral straight here. DRS not activated on this straight, but the toe itself is going to pull you along, and you can see the gap, the deficit coming down from 7/10 down to 4/10 there on the second straight alone. So I wonder if he's going to go for an undercut. Right about time for medium runners to start pitting, isn't it?
Yeah, precisely. And of course, some of these runners, like hard runners on the front of Big Man Joe, who had qualified in P5, find themselves also in P5. And as you say that, Rajnel heads into the pits.
Exactly.
Yeah, medium timed it well. This is why Dalvin's been missing, folks. He's been on track, gaining so much knowledge and clearly competing at the highest levels of sim racing as he can. And he's been pulling it off quite a bit, which I'd love to hear about Dalvin, because these gaps between drivers are gonna end up becoming bigger and bigger into the halfway mark of the race.
Yeah, this outlap is going to be crucial though, because you are on the hard tires. It's going to take a bit of time to warm up, but once you get them fired up in the second and third sector, you might just get the jump on Levi Tiger Pants. So that's exactly what Rage Neil might be aiming for. Envy as well, who's made the jump here. 3 seconds was the gap as we saw earlier to the top two, and he might just close in on Levi Tiger Pants on his outlap here. So outlap critical, as the engineers like to say, and this is going to prove the way. So Levi, will he stay out? Will he jump in and respond? It's going to be a lap where he's probably wanna take an action here.
But Davin, Rajnel, he's come out on fresh mediums. I wonder if that's a driver error, and he's picked mediums instead of hards. And I hope it's not an issue with the game. But if he has come out on mediums, he still has to go out and pit again.
Yeah, that definitely aims for a 2-stop here. He's probably going to go for soft at the end, hoping for a safety car or VSC, cheeky one, I suppose. But yeah, if he's on the mediums, he's definitely going to get the jump on Levi here, regardless if Levi decides to respond or not. But yeah, he's just compromised himself with an extra pit stop. Levi, as we say, he's responding, he's jumping into the pits. He knows that regardless of whatever strategy raging is going on, Levi is going to be strategically on the best strategy here on the hard tires to go till the end.
Yeah, we're staying on board Levi Tiger Pants as he heads into the pits rather slowly, and him being in the Williams, it's the final pit wall, as you could see. A steady drive through the pit lane itself, and out he comes on a fresh set of hard tires. Freeze takes the lead of the race with a 3-second time penalty, and looks like Rajnel has gotten it. He sets purple sector 3 as well. He's ahead, but he's on the mediums, let's not forget. So it's going to be interesting remaining half of the race itself. We got Freeze on the lead of the race. Big Man Joe running P2 after an unfortunate incident with Gouts at the very start. Could you imagine that, Dalvin? Gouts and Big Man Joe, they started alongside each other and they bumped wheels, and if I got this right, they actually came together into turn 1.
Well, I'll have to watch a replay to believe that, but I'll take your word as it is. I wouldn't say that's entirely impossible. It's definitely in the realms of possibilities here in the Bwoah Racing League. Anyone could tangle with anyone, and we hope that there are few more of those. Perhaps just hoping for some more action out on track. But yeah, I think so far, going back to the strategies that we have out on play here, a Rage Neil, I don't know what's on his mind, but he's pulled off a marvelous undercut. That 3-second gain. He was 1 second behind on the entry into the pit lane, so he's come out ahead by 2 seconds and is still gaining. And there's yellow in sector 2. What's happening over there?
That looks like Spicy Killer. Yeah, bit of a moment for Spicy Killer. As you can see, he is off track and seemingly doing donuts even. But I'm pretty sure he was just correcting his car to rejoin the track itself. Just a moment. Back onto the track. Sector 2 yellows will be off as well. But Rookie nevertheless ahead of Horning, who's running P10. He's been having not the stellar of races either. But as I mentioned earlier on, Dalvin, huge gaps along the field itself. Gives me a bit of time to quiz. Not quiz, but ask you about how your racing expeditions have been in sim racing.
Oh, wonderful. I'm taking a season off to commentate on my other league as well, and well, let's just hope that gives me a good reset before we jump back into the sims for next year. So yeah, I'm hoping that goes well for me. And you know, as always, there's always some real life touching the grass kind of moments for us sim racers as well. So yeah, I'll be really hoping to get back into the rig for proper races real soon.
Yes. And again, we still await the glorious official Bwoah Racing League race start from Dalvin, which will come in a season in the future where we have a competent enough co-commentator to join me, which is a bit far-fetched perhaps. But regardless, we seemingly missed, as we conversated about sim racing, Leroy Jenkins made a pit stop. That's the only thing that unraveled, and he's on a fresh set of hards. Not the only driver, but the only driver with a fresh set of hards on this lap at the very least. So we are closing in on what looks like the halfway mark. Yep, just about the halfway mark of this race. We're on lap number 15, folks, of the French GP of the Bwoah Racing League Season 7. And we got our race leader in Freeze. I don't know if you remember, Dalvin, but Freeze actually likes this track a lot. And I don't know if, you know, in one of the seasons you were with me in the comms box, if you got to see Freeze's tire management, specifically on the mediums in this game, around this track. He went, I think, around 22 laps to 26 laps on the mediums.
Well, that might have been
Before?
probably the season before.
Yeah,
Season
okay.
before. I'm pretty sure I was
Possibly.
here. I might have missed it. However, you know, speaking about time management itself, it seems that he's starting to drop a little bit of time here and there in the odd corners or two, and he's just about managing the gap to Big Man Joe. Mind you, they are on different strategies here. Big Man Joe now, you can see on the second half of the lap, he's starting to gain on Freeze as well. So perhaps just a little bit of tire performance, in tire degradation coming in, and that's nothing that he can do about. And Big Man Joe, all the while, I think he's just slowly creeping back in, and with him possibly going onto the mediums in the second stint, so I think we'll have probably a dogfight here for between Freeze and Big Man Joe towards the closing stages.
While that is the case for the closing stages right now, Big Man Joe's gonna have his hands full. By the looks of it, he's got an Alpine breathing down his gearbox almost as he exits the final corner. Freeze, however, our race leader, heading into the pits, giving Big Man Joe the race lead. It is the Alpine driver Rajnail, rookie of the Bwoah Racing League Season 7, closing in on the Alfa Romeo driver, our two-time race winner of Season 7 so far, Big Man Joe. Could he get a third, or will he be threatened for position pretty early on in this race, or in the halfway mark of this race by Rajnail? It's the rookie versus the veteran around Paul Ricard, Dalvin.
He's beaming and bobbing all over the corners to look for an avenue to get past Big Man Joe, but here you go. Finally, the DRS straight is coming, and 3/10 the gap, 2/10, and that's going to be an easy pass for Rajnail. He needs to get past Big Man Joe as quickly as possible. He's lost over a second by being behind, and Levi Tiger Pants now will definitely be easily looking at the back of the Alpine in a lap or two. Big Man Joe will definitely fall next to Levi Tiger Pants as well. Old tires versus new tires, it's an obvious comparison there. What's going to happen? Freeze, in the meantime, Sartak, if you've noticed, he's gone onto a set of soft tires, so proving your theory of time management even further, that he's going to take the soft tires till the end. Question is, can he keep those soft tires alive for 12 laps, which is kind of difficult to pull off here, but you know, not impossible if you have the right setup on.
Yeah, ambitious from Freeze on lap number 16, coming out on the sauce, as you mentioned. A credit where credit is due. Rajnail, in his very first race in the Bwoah Racing League, He's taken the race lead of the race, but how it'll pan out at the tail end of this race is one of question for now. But yeah, Racing leading this race ahead of Big Man Joe, Levi Tiger Pants, Envy, and Freeze wrap up the top 5 for now on lap number 17. We've got 10 laps of racing, and go figure, we haven't had a safety car just yet. Even thinking about it seems like the universe says nope, you're not allowed to think about it. I'm pretty sure the drivers resonate with that as well.
I'm pretty sure someone like Levi would not like a safety car right now, because that will mean Big Man Joe, who's up ahead of him on track position, will get out ahead as well. But no, well, we can just scrap that idea all away as Levi Tiger Pants makes a move around the outside, around the inside, all around Big Man Joe, dancing around him and into the Mistral chicane here, gets ahead, and with that pressure tire, he's going to pull a gap already, 6-7 tenths as we speak, coming out of the Mistral chicane onto the second part of the Mistral straight, and he's set his target onto Racing, who is running low on battery. Yeah, he's running on fumes now, and that's going to slow him down even further.
Yeah, 2 seconds the gap, as you mentioned, to close in on 10 laps to go, and Levi Tiger Pants might just be able to do it as long as things stay as clean as you'd imagine. We had an interesting qualifying session. Since you missed it, I'll mention it, Dalvin. And also a seemingly 3-second time penalty for Sicknig after multiple warnings. That will be for track limits. In sector 1 lights up yellow briefly. I spy a white dot on the track map, which means it could be the Haas driver in Spicy Killer once again having a moment in sector 1. But yeah, back to my initial description of the qualifying session, Dalvin. We got to see clear skies, and the tail end of it got to see a bit of drizzle, which means some of these drivers failed to set a lap time in entirety. We saw Sicknick start in the back. We saw Envy getting beaten by Levi Tiger Pants' lap time, so he couldn't even improve around the conditions. So it was an interesting qualifying session. I'd hoped we'd see rain in the race because I knew you were going to come by, but for now it seems like it's not the case.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what, we did a practice race with Envy and Sicknick before, and the rain was fun to drive in some part, not so fun in other parts as well. But yeah, if we had rain, we probably we'd be looking at a different grid right now. Who might have been leading, may have been at the back, whoever at the back might have been at the front. It's all in the realm of possibilities. Whenever it rains, it equalizes the field some way. You know, who practiced, who did not practice, you get to see that. But yeah, clear skies, I'd say that's probably the best conditions everyone could hope for, so they can push to the max here.
Of course, and push to the max is something Sicknick will be doing. Now he just pitted for a fresh set of tires. Mediums are on. He gets passed by Leroy Jenkins, and he just might be able to pick him off well before the end of this lap. The red kicking out for Leroy Jenkins as they go through the right-handers of Sector 1 into Sector 2. And this is the part of the track we've seen the most passes, and this is the part of the track we're going to see Sicknick beat to the left-hand side. Level pegging on the straight. Through he goes in the Red Bull and up into P7. And up ahead, however, a bit of a change in positions as Big Man...
They might just drop a little bit of pace towards the end, and Big Man Joe with that tire advantage, we might see him close down on Freeze at the very least here. So podium, P3, I think that's the best Big Man Joe could hope for. He's gonna be targeting Envy for that for sure.
Yeah, well, after tumbling down the order to P9, P10, a podium doesn't seem sour at all for someone like Big Man Joe, considering Gout's still on the hard tires, 17 lap old hard tires, and running P6. I assume he's got a pit stop left to make as well, so he didn't come out good out of that incident at all in comparison to Big Man Joe. But for now, we got Rajnil leading this race, a second's gap between himself and Levi Tiger Pants. Is there a possibility that Rajnil actually takes it to the very end on the mediums? Oh, he's gone in his attempt to head into the pits. He's fumbled it and might have just cost him a bit of lap time, but Levi Tiger Pants lines up on the main straight, and he will be taking the lead of the race on lap number 19, and Rajnil is in the pits. Double stacked with Horning. Oh no, you couldn't make this up for the rookie in the Bwoah Racing League. Timing gone wrong as his teammate pits along with him, ahead of him in fact. Would have costed him dearly. on the front
Yeah,
of
definitely
time.
a few seconds lost there by the double stack. And yeah, just to add on to what you said, he could have taken the mediums till the end. However, he would have been disqualified by the regulations because he only ran 2 set of mediums. He's supposed to run at least 2 different compounds here. And now finally he's on the soft tires, which is, well, technically a second compound that he's on. So yeah, initial fumble by not going onto the hards on his first pit stop, and then a double stack with his teammate. Yeah, it's not exactly looking good. And with Big Man Joe 5 seconds behind, this could be a race of attrition here. Who gets closer to Freeze, who gets closer to Envy. Freeze is getting close to Envy as well, so that might be a pass coming soon for P2. Rage Nail. Oh, I'm seeing different. That's a nail. Oh, okay. I'm saying Rage Nail all the while. So it makes more sense why it's a Rage Nail. Probably just knock the nail on the wood with the hammer. So yeah, he's gonna have to put some hammer down onto the nails and get his act together, and probably just get within 3 seconds of Freeze up ahead to steal that podium away on time penalties. That's it, the best you could hope for. Same for Big Man Joe.
Yeah, race of attrition, as you mentioned. It's going to be an interesting 6 laps. As there's only 6 laps left in the French GP of the Bwoah Racing League Season 7. We got to witness Gout's pit on our screens, as you spoke about. Rage Nail having quite the challenge in his hands now. Of course, let's not forget, a left field incident can happen at any time in sim racing, as you'd imagine. But for now, for the folks, 5 y'all watching, make sure you drop in the chat any kind of predictions you have heading into the final stint of this race itself. We've got Levi Tiger Pants leading this race ahead of Envy, ahead of Freeze, Rage Nail, Big Man Joe, Sickening, the only driver on the mediums out on track, Leroy Jenkins, Gouts, Spicy Killer, and Horning at the very back of the pack in P10. It's been an interesting run so far, interesting 21 laps of strategy and poor decision making on some fronts and smart decision making on others, as you'd imagine. But Davin, who do you reckon has a good shot of pulling off a stellar stint in these last couple of laps?
Oh, talk about stain, it probably has to be someone like Big Man Joe or Rage Nail on the soft tires here. Freeze as well with his soft tires closing in on Envy. That could be possibly the stint that they want to drive and get up ahead on positions. However, if you look on the top side of the things as well, Levi and Envy, who has been running on the hard tires, starting on the mediums and going onto the hards, have also driven quite well so far. Envy just managing the gap. It's starting to come down from 3 seconds and it's on the lower side of 2 seconds. Freeze is starting to catch up to him, but the soft tires will degrade much quicker than the hard tires. So it's gonna be a battle of the tires, who can keep the tires going longer. And yeah, in both sense, I'd say Freeze and Envy have done a good job here.
Fantastic. So the front runners clearly doing an impeccable job. Goes to show why they're running at the very front. Credit to Freeze holding on to that P3, of course, aided by that fumble from Rage Nail, double stacking in the pits. We got to see Spicy Killer heading into the pits, coming out on a fresh set of softs. He's still P9 ahead of Horning. I'm pretty sure his goal right now for this race is to finish ahead of Horning. He's got 6 seconds gap between the two. So clearly he might just be able to fulfill that. But here comes Gouts on Leroy Jenkins, evidently. That is a fight for P7 and he's made the pass on track at the final corner. Made the pass on the penultimate corner. And on the final corner is way ahead of Leroy Jenkins in the Williams. And on the main straight you'll get to see the driver on the superior tire. Sector 2 lights up yellow. That is, I'd imagine, someone in a blue car. Or I could be wrong. Just a bit of a moment through the chicane, I assume. By one of the drivers.
Oh, that was probably the other Alpine. That was Horning, who was having a little bit of a moment here coming out of the chicane in the Mistral Straits, and that has relegated him all the way down to P10. I'm not sure if he's lost more positions, but yeah, risky spin there, especially on the soft tires, which are very delicate around here.
Precisely, and he's not lost too many positions. He was running P10, but he's lost a ton of time. 6 seconds was the gap earlier on. Now it's at 13 and a half. Oh, Poor Horning, and hopefully he can jump back and we see him in his stellar form as we saw him as he entered into Bwoah Racing League. He was fighting for podiums and all of a sudden, he's not found the time to practice as much. The game has clearly evolved over the years and he's unable to remain in the thickness of the battles in the midfield at the very least, if not on the front. But he has been clean. That's going for him. He's been as clean as he can on track and he's been able to finish, which hasn't been the case for some of the drivers, even some of the front runners for that matter, on more than one occasion. But on lap number 23, we got Levi Tiger Pants leading ahead of Envy and Freeze, who seems like he is on a charge. The gap between himself and Envy now come down to 1.5 seconds. So those soft tires working its magic under Freeze.
Yeah, they still have a little bit of an edge left on those tires here, this soft. Towards the end, they are still on lighter fuel. You don't really get that much load into them. You don't really wear them out as much as the start of the session. Same goes for the hards though. They are maintaining quite a bit of an edge here. Sector 3 is where you can see the bulk of the advantage is coming in for Freeze with the soft tires, giving him that a little bit more mechanical grip he needs in the slow corners. And as you can see now, and we're running a little bit wide there on the exit. Freeze gaining on the entry and exit as well. Now he's almost within 1 second here. I reckon if he pushed just a little bit more, he's going to be within DRS come the middle sector here.
And middle sector is where it's going to count. He's going to be able to mount a challenge on Envy. And now he is within a second, as you mentioned. So come sector 2, he's going to try and close in on the gearbox of the AlphaTauri. So he's still closing in, 9/10 the gap of course. And we can see Rajnail, who had a 6 seconds gap to Freeze, now down to a mere just over 4 seconds gap. So it does seem like once they ran about 4 laps on the soft tires, they clearly come into that sweet spot and they can charge through, have a bit more of an edge in terms of pace. In comparison to some of the other drivers on mediums and hards. And right now we can see as we head into the chicane of sector 2, Freeze not only in sights of Envy, he'll be able to possibly keep within half a second's gap to Envy in the AlphaTauri. Humongous gap opened up.
7/10 gap. It's sweet spot for getting DRS. Actually, never mind that. Sarthak, if you can open your eyes real big, do I see some rain spots on the chassis of these cars? And yes, there are rain spots here. Looks like we have rain in the session. What's happened here? It's interesting turn of events with 3 laps to go. Is anyone going to gamble it on the intermediates at this late into the race here?
Oh, 3-second time penalty for Spicy Killer, and the rain seemingly is coming down a bit harder at the end of sector 3. And let's not forget that when we've seen this happen on more than one occasion in the Bwoah Racing League, we've seen drivers struggle in conditions like this, not pit and remain out on track to roll the dice, as you said, gamble and stay out on the softs. And I think they're going to stay out because considering we're on lap number 25, pitting now would be disastrous unless the entire grid did.
Yeah, it's probably touch and go. If you made a stop onto the inters, maybe the conditions might pick up, the rain might pick up and the inters might come into play late into the lap. But 2 laps to go, that's where it's gonna get difficult. DRS is still online, so we know that these slick tires are gonna be a little bit quicker than the intermediate tires here. However, considering the conditions as they are, the track getting slipperier by the second here, soft tires, whoever's on the soft tires are going to gain a lot. As you can see, Rage Neil has caught up from all the way down to 4 seconds. His gap is coming down to 2 seconds now. Freeze is still keeping in touch with Envy, so this is really getting spicy towards the end of the session here.
Yeah, those tires are coming alive under Rajnail. Merely a lap or 2 ago, he was 4 seconds to Freeze, and now he's mere 2 seconds to Freeze. And you can see how closer Freeze is this time around to Envy, and hopefully on the next lap he'll be able to make the move. Of course, that horse on your screens that came through was Spicy Killer trying to unlap himself of Freeze, but clearly he'll have to settle for P9 as it stands and stay clear of the competitors up in front. On the main straight, however, rain is seemingly in sights.
Exactly, and with this top 3, not top 3, P2, 3 and 4 converging on each other, it's probably going to get even tougher to overtake with 2 laps to go. We have a bit of a yellow. That is that's an Alpine.
Yep, Honing.
Spun out somewhere, and that is Honing. Probably struggling with these lowering grip conditions in this tricky times here.
Yeah, that was at the end of Sector 3. He went completely off track. His car seems fine, so he'll be on track and continue the race on this penultimate lap. And look who is in DRS. In sights of DRS itself, Rajnail now within half a second on Sector 2 as the rain comes down a bit more harder, as I like to say it. 4/10 the gap between himself and Freeze. Freeze a mere half a second to Envy, and that three-way battle you were talking about, Dalvin.
Look at this. He gets much better exit though, but he is running on fumes here with battery. Same goes for Freeze. Around the outside now, Rajnail with that battery boost gets past Freeze on the second Mistral straight, and looks like Envy is going to fall to him very, very soon as well.
Yeah, might just, but is lap number 26. They've got a mere 1.5 laps to go to ensure they can seal a podium position, and we got a DNF. We got a retirement, Sector 3. Spicy Killer, that's the end of his race, and that possibly could be... Okay, I'm trying to figure out if I can get a sight of Spicy Killer. Nope, and that is yellow flag only for a sector for a brief moment as his car is cleared, and back on to the race itself as the final lap has begun.
Final lap, and look at this. Rajnail with all that extra advantage he has on the softer tires with worsening conditions is in prime position here to take P2 away from Envy. I'd say, regardless of the outcome, what a race it has been so far, and P2 on your debut seems like a sweet victory, cherry on top of the pie, or whatever you want to call it. Now into Sector 2, as you can see, we're right on board with Rajnail. Gets so much more traction, able to follow Envy so much closer. Now it's going to come down to who's going to have more top speed here. Rajnail with the DRS, NERS. He's running low on battery though. Envy, how much can he fight with those older tires, harder tires? Not much, looks like it. Not much resistance put up by Envy. He knows that it's as good as lost at P2.
Yeah, he's had to concede, but he might just be able to mount a challenge going through Sector 3 as well. Here he comes around the outside, wheel to wheel they go, AlphaTauri and Alpine, and back into P2 he goes as our race leader comes out the exit of Sector 3. The battle continues for P2 right behind, so close. Rookie versus champion, Rajnail versus Envy as they go through Sector 3. I'll have to divert my attention to the main straight. Levi Tiger Pants, what a race he's driven. He wins the French GP of the Bwoah Racing League Season 7, but the question remains who's gonna come out P2?
I'm putting my money on Rajnail here. He gets a better exit. Envy gets a poor one though, but it's a short run to the line here. Can he get it? Envy might just steal it, but oh, it came so close. 35 thousandths. That's how far Rajnail was away from getting that P2. Nevertheless, P3 podium on his maiden race here in Bwoah Racing League. Freeze comes home in P4. What a race he's had. Big Man Joe in P5. Sicknick now, well, still somewhere in the middle of Sector 2, Sector 3. And, well, I think he'll be happy to just bring the car home in one piece right now.
Yeah, I'm sure. But what fantastic racing we got to see for that P2 position in this race. Unfortunately for Freeze, having started in the top 3, find themselves finishing P4 as you mentioned. But yeah, there is Sicknick on our screens right now, crossing the line down in P6. Qualifying means so much for these drivers, clearly, especially on a small grid as well. So you need to be the first ones out of the pit, out of the pits, and try and set that lap time pretty early on, especially with possible varying conditions as we saw today in the qualifying session. Gouts, after that incident pretty early on, finds himself down in P7, finishing the race down in P7, but he'll be happy he finished. Leroy Jenkins as well, the other rookie in Bwoah Racing League this season, has finished this race down in P8, which means we've had 3 retirements this season. Not this season, my apologies. In this race.
This race,
yeah, this race. Just for this race. 3 retirements in Horning, Spicy Killer, and of course Mr. Wex. But it's Rajnail, our driver of the day, who makes it all the way down from P11 up in to P3 onto the podium.
Exactly. What a race he's had. Pretty close. You could probably just fit a paper between the 2 cars with that gap. But nevertheless, stellar defense by Envy, saving up the battery for that last minute assault on the second straight, where Rajnail failed to save an extra amount of battery. So once again proving that, saving just a little bit amount of battery towards the end definitely helps you in some of these battles, and we proved that once again. Proves why he's a champion as well. Deserves that P2. Well, I think we had a good race, although I joined like almost halfway, but I think I've enjoyed more than I missed in the past 3 races.
Surely enough, and I think the only race you might have ended up missing would have been the races to come, if anything, considering we're only 4 races in. We've got about 8 races left into the season as we wrap up in December. There you have it, folks. That is our finishing order of the French GP of the Bwoah Racing League Season 7. We got Levi, Tiger Pants, Envy and Ragenale on the podium. Ragenale picks off the cheeky fastest lap, 1 minute 32.643.
Yep, 1 extra point to take it off. To start off his points tally here, I'd say that's a sweet weekend. Last to first challenge sort of completed. Last to podium, he can say it's been completed here.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up there, folks. What a stellar race around Paul Ricard it has been. A treat, as always, alongside you, Dalvin. We'll see you again for race number 5 next weekend. I wonder where we'll be heading. But tune in once again at 9 p.m. IST, and now I'm excited for the F1 Qatar GP. See you next weekend, Davin.
See you. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.